Hi everyone, welcome to tonight's Alumni Job Panel. I'm Pearlie DePayne, I'm the chair of ALASC, and tonight I'm joined by Stephanie Roach, Chris Brown, and Daniel Kiely. They're all going to tell us about their experiences with finding jobs and about their current jobs, and give us tips and answer questions. So we're going to start off with Stephanie. If you're ready, Stephanie, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. My name is Stephanie Roach, and I'm a librarian at College of San Mateo, and I graduated from the iSchool in December of 2010. So, I mean, relatively recent. I'm still definitely in my early career. I do have an online presentation prepared via Prezi, which unfortunately doesn't work very well in Collaborate, but I'm going to go ahead and attempt to go through it with you all. So if you'll bear with me a moment, I will switch over to the presentation and get going with my talk. I think it takes a moment or two for each of my slides to fully resolve on your end, so you may be seeing the images a little behind me. So just have some patience with that, and thank you very much. I'm really thrilled to be here and glad that you all are here as well. All right, I am switching over. Unfortunately, I am getting an error message. Can folks still hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you.
You are. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think I'm going to go ahead and just do, because I'm getting it's just giving me a hosting is paused message, so I'm not actually getting any options to select my presentation. So I'm going to just skip that and just kind of talk through rather than seeing it. I will share the link to it here in the chat window. You're all welcome to take a look, and hopefully that will work, and I apologize for the technical difficulties. Okay. So I have, as I said, it's really nice to meet you. My technical position title is Cataloging Online and Digital Resources Librarian at College of San Mateo, and I just recently started this position. So I've just gone through a successful job search, and so that's really kind of what I'm going to focus my talk on today is the job search piece of things, and I hope that you all will find that useful and ask some questions at the end after everyone's presented. Before I was at College of San Mateo, I was at John F. Kennedy University, so all of this is located here in the San Francisco Bay Area, and there I was also a librarian as well as adjunct faculty. I also have been very active with the California Library Association's Technical Services Interest Group, and I'm currently the past chair, which means that for the year before this I was the chair, and the year before that I was the vice chair, chair-elect. So that's kind of been what I've been up to. At College of San Mateo, I really focus most of my time splitting it between teaching, committee work, and then of course my regular library duties like maintaining the library's website, coordinating social media, managing our digital resources like our subscriptions to databases, and then I also do a lot of cataloging support for our cataloging librarian, as well as any other thing that might happen to come up, like event planning or promotional activities. Just so much comes up in the course of library work day to day. So as I said, I graduated from the iSchool in December of 2010, and I got my first full-time job offer in December of 2011. So it took me a full year before I finally got a full-time position. And then, like I said, my current position, I got the offer for that this past summer and started in the fall. So my job search strategy, I felt like, when I first graduated and got on the hunt for a new job, my strategy really, there were a lot of ups and downs in it. And at first I didn't quite know what I was doing. I didn't have as much success, but then I really kind of did some soul searching, if you will. I really wanted to take some time and focus on getting to know who I was as an individual and what I wanted to become as a professional, who I wanted to become as a professional. And so I really took a hard look at my strengths and weaknesses and also goals about where I was going, and started to play on that as part of my job search. And I felt like that really got me in tune, helped me be more selective about which jobs to apply for, and also it really helped me in developing language that would resonate with people who were on search committees, because I was able to match values that I had with the values of the organization that I was applying for a job at. And I think that that really kind of turned around the job search for me. It really helped me to have more successful outcomes with it. And then, of course, I also had to figure out how to balance my time, because about halfway through the job search, I couldn't afford to just, look for a job. I had to work while I was looking for a job. And so once I, was working, I was doing temp work, I had to also learn new strategies for managing my time. So as I was saying, I really focused my job search according to my interests, my goals, my strengths and weaknesses, and I aligned all of my search strategy and efforts. And essentially that really helped me to figure out who I was and tell my story, because I think that telling stories, people find that to be compelling in the end, is telling your story. And so learning how to do that can be really important as you're on the job search. So as part of that, I deliberately got really social. So, and this was one of the most rewarding strategies I used for me. I co-founded the Information Professional Social Club with a colleague of mine who was still a student. She was, I think, working on her e-portfolio at the time, so she was right at the end of her MLIS degree, and I had just recently graduated, and together we formed this social club. We basically made a Facebook page, and we started organizing events, and we would meet around the Bay Area with other students and other professionals from the area, and it turned out to be just a really fantastic thing. I mean, because we got support from other people, but at the same time, we also were making connections the whole time. Another thing I did was go online. I really started becoming much more active on social media, so Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest. I blogged as well, and all of that helped me to, I think, get my name out there, have an online presence, and also just to kind of meet people, get to know what other people were thinking about, and network. And that actually, even though the networking that I did through the social club actually did help give me leads for jobs. It was really kind of exciting to see that pan out for me. I didn't actually get a job from it, but it gave me a lead, and I got an interview as a result of it, and so that was kind of exciting. So I would definitely suggest as much as possible for people to get out into the world and try to meet others who are in the same boat or who have already been there. And then, of course, as I already mentioned, I'm very involved with the California Library Association's Technical Services Interest Group, and that was kind of a deliberate choice on my part, too. I wanted to meet other professionals, and so that was a way to really volunteer my time and do some real work. But in so doing, I really got to meet people who were way more experienced than I was, and that was something that I really needed because I didn't work in a library before my library degree. I was brand new to the profession, and so I didn't have that kind of experience. I had just a little bit of experience from doing internships, but I didn't have the work experience like some people do, and so it was really, really valuable for me to get to know people who had a lot of experience because they have a lot to offer, and I have great relationships with a lot of those people who have kind of served as mentors along the way. And another thing that I did was I applied for an award through the California Library Association Technical Services Interest Group. And there are a lot of these little awards and scholarships out there, and I would definitely recommend that you apply for them, because since I've done that, I have been on the awards committees in the last couple of years, and I know that oftentimes a lot of people don't take advantage of them. There's not a lot of applicants. And so I think just knowing that, that means your chances are higher, because it's so hard when you're a student to take the extra time out to fill out these applications. But if you can, if you take a little bit of extra time and go ahead and do it, I think the chances are good for you, because not everybody does have the time. All right, so that pretty much wraps up my part of the presentation. I think we only have a few minutes each, but I just want to close by saying that, you know, professional opportunities will come to you when they are when they're least expected. So just be ready to tell your story and be yourself and explore who you are. And I think that you will be able to apply that to your job search and be successful. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephanie. Chris, you're next. Go ahead.
Thank you. And I really admire Stephanie and all of her energy in engaging social media. I don't know how she keeps up with all that on LinkedIn and Facebook. So I'm Chris Brown. I am a senior community library manager for Contra Costa County Library, and I can really understand where all of you are at. I also graduated in 2010, the same as Stephanie, and you're all really at the point where you want to see a return on your investment. In my view, the answer is to better understand the job that you're going to be asked to do professionally. So I'm going to cover who I am, what I learned in that job search process, hopefully give you guys some tools to better understand the job that you're looking for, and give you some ideas for filling gaps in your professional toolkit. So a little bit about myself. I manage the Walnut Creek and Ignacio Valley Library. So they're the libraries in our county with the highest CERC. I manage about 40 employees, allocate a $240,000 collection budget. Some of my special project experience, I project manage the Discover and Go program, which circulates museum passes, and in the years that I managed that and developed those relationships with the museums, we circulated about $2.5 million in passes. The last thing I did was this past Veterans Day, I directed the War Ink project, which got lots of good press in Newsweek, and it's a project that documents the story of our returning veterans through their tattoo art. I'm currently getting a Master's in Public Administration from the University of San Francisco. I was a 2011 Eureka Fellow, have spoken at CLA and PLA, and in 2013 got a National Association of Counties Achievement Award for our county. And the reason I bring up all that is because I remember when I was looking to get a job, I couldn't even get a volunteer position. So I was living in Chicago before I went back to school for library science, and at the time I wasn't as aware of the, all the top school that was so close to Chicago, and the fact that ALA was there. I was just looking for a library assistant job, and I applied to all of the universities. I applied to their interlibrary loan departments, special libraries, museum libraries, could not get a job. Finally, I, tried to get a volunteer position and, didn't even get a call back for that. And I had a BA in literature. I thought, this is nuts. And so I bring up all of those successes to point out that the field, I think, can be hard to break into, but once you're in, if you're putting forth a really good effort, I think you can gain a lot of momentum. So I think the most important first step in your careers is going to be your step in finding the right library. I think the slide could also be called "Find the Right Librarian." You really want to get to that institution that has a leader within the field. There's lots of people I know who I went to school with who, they've gotten jobs, but they're working with people who maybe have a little bit less connection to, California Library Association, or they're less connected to grants or grant funding. And so my experience was I met a deputy director by the name of Kathy Sanford at the Contra County Library, and I think I was a library assistant at the time, very new, and I remember going in their office when they hired me, and we were just chatting, and she had asked me, what do you know about computers? What do you know about technology and innovation? And I was a literature major, with an emphasis in modern and Russian literature, so I knew nothing. But I made an offer to her. I said, if something comes up where, you have some interesting work, I'd like to learn, and, I'd like to get involved where I can. And so I think a lot of the interesting projects I've been able to do have come from those relationships where somebody lets you sit in with a group that's way more experienced than you and lets you learn from your peers. So I really advocate you finding those mentors and leaders in the field, that it's not just about finding a job, it's about finding those leaders that you think have something to teach you. Because they're the people there that I think you'll have a model of folks who absolutely deliver on their projects and their commitments around, grant funding or, institutional projects. So I really find the right person you want to work for. I think, yes, maybe you have to get that first job that doesn't meet that criteria, but in the meantime, I think you can become an intern or a volunteer with someone that really does inspire you, and it may be a little bit extra work for a short time, but for that 1 to 2 years, you'll really, I think, learn a lot more than you otherwise would. So the next bit of advice I think I would give is, this actually comes from a book that I hate the book. It's that, knock 'em dead resumes book. It's really not something the book doesn't really appeal to me, but they did have this technique called targeted job description. And this, I think, is very important, because when you go and look at one of those job descriptions for a librarian, right, it's everything in the kitchen sink is on that page. They have like 30 tasks that you could end up doing, or 15 skills that they look for, right? And I think it can be hard to navigate just that like sea of detail. Like, what do you focus on? And so in this in this targeted job description, they advocate you finding about 1 to 6 job postings, right, from leaders in the field. Like, maybe go, what does New York Public Library have on their job description page for a librarian? What does, Los Angeles Public Library have? And gathering, 6 to 10 of those, and looking for the skills and abilities that are common on each job description, right? And so what you're doing is you're finding those, 5 core skills that are listed across those jobs, right? So that when you go into a job interview, if let's say the job descriptions list, has an experience with collection development or collection maintenance, right? You'll have that core list of skills within which to couch your toolkit. And so I didn't do this for public libraries because I wasn't sure if we had specialists or archivists in the chat. And so I still recommend you to go out, find those 10 job descriptions from those leaders in the field, and pick out those 5 core skills. And then the other thing is when you settle on those key skills, pick out the descriptions from the institutions that describe it the best, right? Which institutions describe collection maintenance the best, or which ones describe the skill set of child library programs the best, and then use that language when you're selling your own skill set, right? I think oftentimes we're looking for the language to really make our skill set attractive and dynamic, and that language is already out there. Just go collect it. So hopefully that's an actual step you can take to kind of better understand the job you're going to be doing, and it'll give you some language around how to describe it better. Now, for me, just in terms of my experience and the people I've worked with and what I look for, the things I think folks need, and when I think about what these skills, I think of them in terms of knowledge, skills, and abilities, right? Because when you're going into that HR interview, that's what they're looking for. They want to know that you have the knowledge to do the job, that you have the skill set, and the ability. So I think first and foremost, you need to have a knowledge of your service area. If you want to serve teens, right, you should know, what are the criteria for solid teen programming, right? What are the developmental needs of teens? I think another key piece of knowledge is being able to do event planning, right? How do you set up an event? How do you market it? I think, of course, they're gonna look for somebody who has a knowledge of reference and reader's advisory, knowledge of collection development. I think there's also a need for skill around basic design, like for designing your flyers, or if you're doing web layouts for like an online subject guide. I think a skill around writing is critical. Lots of libraries are going to be going out for grants. You're going to have to be writing your annual reports, and so being able to be concise and appropriately colorful in your language is going to be big. I think a lot of librarians don't get an opportunity to develop their speech skill, right? And I struggle with this too, because there's not a lot of places that I think can directly learn from. I know there's Toastmasters, but to me that always struck me as like really outdated and kind of stodgy. My advice around that is to maybe join like a local nonprofit and serve on their board. I think you can get a lot of experience around, minute taking and records and committee work. I think also skill around customer service, any awareness you can build about technology. I usually myself look for annual technology recaps, right, just to make sure that I'm staying up on trends that are out there. And then I think there are some intangibles like the ability to work well in teams. There's a lot of people that I think are incredibly brilliant. They're really good at their job, and they just cannot work well with people. So as much as you can, find ways to get involved in your community so you're working with teams on a regular basis. Let's see. So just a couple more ideas. I think read professional association guidelines. I think you can volunteer at local chamber events. Those get you, I think, aware of event planning. I think you can intern to create a reader's advisory guide at a library, or ghost on a weeding project. Design flyers for your local nonprofit, because you're going to have to eventually do your publicity. I think a lot of libraries have either no one, or they have one graphic designer for an entire library system, which is what we have. And I don't think that's irregular. I talked to lots of colleagues who have literally one graphic designer for, a system that's 25 or more branches. So, being able to whip out simple but elegant flyers, that's going to be important. I think folks should really volunteer as a grant writer for a local nonprofit. I think grant writing is one of those things that you get better at as you practice. I think when I started grant writing, I did not feel confident about my writing skills. I didn't make, I think, an effective case for my need. And over time, you just get to see more and more grants, and you see how people write them, or how people make a case for their local need, and how they include research. And so that's something you should get a step up on, because if you're in a public library especially, any innovative programming you do that's outside of your weekly story times, your weekly team programs, or maybe some cultural programming, anything that's a significant resource that you're going to bring into your library, it's going to be grant funded. So I can't emphasize that skill set enough. I said before also, volunteer as a secretary for a local board. There's a lot of skills that you can develop around committee work and minute taking, and I think I'm hoping that gives folks some ideas for where to maybe spend some time while you're still in school. I never found library school to be too demanding or too rigorous, and so I think it does free you up a little bit to maybe develop some skill sets on the side and do some practical learning. That's it.
Daniel,
thank you very much, and I'll hand it off to
Daniel,
Andy.
That's okay.
Andy's my coworker.
Daniel, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, man.
Hi, my name. No worries. I want to just say in the beginning that I'm home alone with my 4-year-old who's in front of the TV with a quesadilla, so I'm hoping he doesn't come and ask me for anything. I graduated in 2007. My job search time or period seems like a long time ago. So and I feel like I know a lot about academic libraries and school libraries, and I don't know a whole lot about public libraries, although I have a little bit of experience to share. And so I wanted to just talk quickly, before I was an academic librarian, I was a high school English teacher. I taught ESL, reading development. I was a school librarian for a couple years while I was in library school, and something that at the time I didn't really have the words for, but something that I've picked up in the past couple of years is this something I learned from doing improv, which is it's called yes and it's this part of it's kind of the core part of doing improv, which is this activity or this outlook where when it's your turn, instead of stopping the rhythm, or instead of stopping the story, you kind of you literally, when you're starting out, you literally say yes and you continue the story. And for me, it's just been a process of over the past 7 or 8 years of me just saying yes to a lot of things, and I think that's really helped me, and it's helped me learn a lot. And so I talked a little bit about what I did before. I actually worked 3 years, or I completed my MLS in 3 years, and one of those years I was an English teacher, which was very difficult. And then the last 2 years, I was able to take over the school library position on an emergency credential. And I still do have my clear single subject and library services credential. And I always keep those up just in case, I always renew them, just in case someday I go back or I need to go back. I hope someday that I can go back, not for a while, but I definitely miss high school kids, and I miss kind of the energy of the kids coming into the library every day, which is quite different than a community college library. And so as a school librarian, you kind of do everything. This is a picture of Chris Crutcher. He was someone who came into my library and did a book talk or a book reading. He's sort of one of the fathers of YA Lit. I ran book clubs. I ran events like Teen Read Week. I was in charge of technology essentially at the school. About 8 years ago, I instituted these clicker. They're kind of commonplace now, and at DVC they're almost passe, but at the time they were pretty new with this idea of using clickers in the classroom. And I was tasked with setting this technology up for a live event in front of the entire school, which was live. I mean, it was pretty stressful. It was all around testing. Like we were trying to do a rally around standardized testing because we had a couple of years of bad luck. I was the textbook manager. I was a one-person department chair. Which was great because it kind of gave me access to the department chairs meeting, which is sort of the main leadership group on campus. I was also a foundation liaison. I was a class advisor, and I was in charge of freshman orientation, which was a program called Link Crew. And this was just something that I said yes to. I'm an incredible introvert, and didn't realize that I would be leading a freshman orientation for 300 people, and I'd be the only person with a mic for a big part of that. And it really scared the hell out of me. But in a lot of ways, it seemed to work. When I was applying for my position at DVC, I definitely worked that experience and that sense of enthusiasm and kind of fearlessness into my application and into my interview questions, which I think were really appreciated. I actually got some feedback on that after my interview process. And one of the reasons that I transitioned to a community college because the position wasn't really supported full time. I hated dealing with textbooks, mainly because I had to ding students for a lot of fines at the end of the year. I didn't like that role. And my Library 2.0 instructor encouraged me to apply. Debbie Ferris was my instructor, and she was a part-timer before San Jose State at DVC. And I at the time I wasn't familiar with DVC or even working in community colleges. But it was something that it was something that I just said yes to, and in some ways I don't have a kind of a traditional path, I think, because I was able to go right from a school library position to a community college position without being an adjunct. But at Diablo Valley College, it was a very long, arduous hiring process. Two interviews. The first was with the library faculty, and then the second, which was really new to me, was an interview with the college president and the faculty senate president. And so on college campuses, usually the faculty have to send three candidates to the college president who would all three of them, would be acceptable, and really the college president makes the final decision of those three who are forwarded to him or her, which was, it's very different from my experience in high schools. But that's just the way it is. And I think that's pretty standard, at least on community college campuses. So my position was a librarian electronic access. There was a 3-year tenure process, which involved, I believe, 4 or 5 evaluations. And again, at the community college level, you're really evaluated on your teaching, not on publishing or scholarship. I had the benefit of being in a new hire cohort, so I was hired with 10 to 12 other full-time faculty hires, and we were in a cohort together all year. A lot of us are still friends and still work with each other a lot. One of the things that was difficult for me is there's a very complicated governance system. DVC is very big. I went from a high school where I could recognize pretty much every student to a community college, which is thousands and thousands of students, and there are committees and there's a faculty senate. I mean, it's like a little Capitol Hill almost in terms of trying to get things done. And I'm still learning. I'm more a part of it now. But very different kind of system, this shared governance where, there's an agreement that the administration and faculty and staff govern the college together. Well, and some of the work that we share is we all work the reference desk, we all teach library workshops, we all participate in evaluations. After you're tenured, all your evaluations are done by your peers, not by your bosses or your deans. We all work on committees. We're a very small department, and so we all have to share in that work. What I'm doing now is I'm the technology committee co-chair. I'm also on the program review task force. I'm just finishing my 6th year on the CLEAR committee, which is a statewide committee that reviews databases and works as a consortium so that all the California community colleges can buy databases at a discount. I'm the department chair, and part of this work right now is I'm working with Oakland Unified School District. I'm working with Oakland Unified School District. We're going to have a cohort of 30 of their employees who are going to be trained as library assistants. And so a lot of these people are clerks, and so they're going to go through our certificate program at the district's expense, and they're going to move from a clerk position to a library assistant position. So they're going to get a significant pay increase, and we're just starting, but I'm really excited about that program. I'm also a teacher in the Puente Learning Community, and I'm an Umoja mentor. Umoja is an organization on campus for it's a learning community for African American students. And my last slide, and from my perspective right now, I highly recommend applying for part-time adjunct positions. Today I was actually meeting with the county, Alameda County HR person, and what I'm hearing from a lot of people, especially with library assistants, but also with entry-level librarian positions, is the experience is really important. And everyone has said this, and really trying to find experience wherever you can. There's a lot of part-time adjunct work at DVC right now. We just went through position posting or a call for part-time adjunct positions, and we purposely wanted to make sure that we didn't make the minimum requirements too rigorous, or we really wanted a big pool to try to give people an opportunity to come start as an adjunct. and oftentimes you're working at the reference desk. There's always projects, always librarians. I liked what Chris said about find your librarian. Once you find a librarian who you like to work with, you can collaborate on projects. We have what we call flex workshops at DVC, where at the beginning of the semester mainly, but at any time in the semester, part-time or full-time faculty can run professional development workshops. And this is really common, for example, for English faculty when they're part-timers and they're trying to get full-time work. They'll put together flex workshops. It's something that a lot of people notice, a lot of people pay attention to who's doing flex workshops, and especially kind of new and innovative topics. A lot of committees have a part-time rep, so I highly recommend stepping up for those if there are any openings. Present and network at conferences, at meetups. When I went to ACRL for the first time, there was a part-time adjunct librarian doing a poster session on being a freeway flyer and just describing her process of, working at 4 different community colleges. And she got to talk to a lot of people, and a lot of people from California libraries, and I'm sure was able to make a lot of connections. So I think poster sessions are a great kind of a way to put yourself out there. And then just in my experience as the electronic access librarian, one of the things I think it's been brought up, that collaboration, teamwork is really key. And technology is often something that we have very experienced staff at DVC, so we're always looking for people who have used LibGuides or are skilled with using different ILSs, whether it's Millennium or whatever they are. Camtasia, people who have made slideshows, online videos, but if it can be spun in a way that that you're doing this via collaboration, or you're working with a group on a LibGuide, or working with a faculty, an English teacher on a LibGuide, or even collaborating within the library. This can come through in a cover letter or a resume. I think it's really shines, really stands out, and it's something that we definitely notice. So I think my time's up. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer questions anytime. Thanks again.
Thank you, Daniel. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Chris. Before we open it up for Q&A, I did notice that there were a couple of questions in the chat box. There was a question about TJD. I think it was in Chris Brown's presentation. Was it a citation?
It's an acronym they have called Targeted Job Description.
Okay. And then in Daniel's presentation, somebody asked, what's an emergency credential?
So it's basically, the districts can allow credentialed teachers to work as a school librarian while they're working on their library services credential. So I'm not sure if any of you are credentialed teachers, but there's not a lot of qualified, credentialed school librarians. So most districts are often willing to set up an emergency credential for you and allow you to be the school librarian. This is as long as you're in your first semester of library school.
Okay, thank you for those clarifications. Okay, so I'm going to open it up for Q&A. I see somebody asked Stephanie a question over there. And here, and Stephanie responded. So if you have a question, feel free to grab the mic or type in the chat.
I have a question just for the students. For those that are working in a library or volunteering, how are you guys getting involved now before you actually are done with school? Like, what are folks doing?
Just to clarify, Chris, you're asking about how we're getting experience?
Yeah, just, you know, what are some of the things that the students are doing while they're in school?
Someone's mentioning volunteer.
That's right, yeah. Internships.
Congratulations, Emily. That's fantastic.
See, Emily, how did you even hear about that? Like, where did you find out about the fellowship? Do you guys have mics?
We do. This is Emily. I applied to the American Library Association scholarship page.
And were you already in a medical library, or was that something that like you got into because of it?
It's actually the program is for recruiting diverse professionals for library and information science, and I was just chosen for that particular library. But other recipients are going to other Ivy League libraries all over the country. So there's about 14 of us.
Very cool. That's awesome.
Thank you.
I actually have some questions that that was part of the RSVP list. Somebody had asked any suggestions about how to coordinate a job search and concurrent move. If anybody want to take that question on.
I can talk about that a little bit. In my most recent job search, even though it was in the Bay Area, I was living in the East Bay, and then after I got the position, moved to the peninsula so that I could be closer and not have to have a crazy commute. With my first job, and I realize you might be talking about across the country or something, but I would definitely say to land your job first wherever you're moving, and if it's going to be very far, you should definitely at the time of the offer, find out if there's any sort of help, financial help as part of the offer to get you relocated, or if it's just a local move like I've done, I would just wait until after you've got the job offer to finally really make that move. What other specific questions do you have about that? Jessica?
Is it okay if I talk?
Yes.
Thank you. Well, we're a little bit older, so we have a house to sell, and then we'd want to probably buy a house because I don't know if you can rent with 3 cats. And we're moving all the way across the country. So the thought of leaving my husband while he's here trying to sell the house sounds really, that doesn't sound like something I want to do, like just go out there.
Do you have a job already then lined up?
No, I don't have a job lined up, and in fact, I'm still looking for jobs locally because we haven't found a place to move to yet. So I'm thinking maybe I should quit looking for jobs here and start looking for jobs there. We're in Massachusetts, and I'm trying to move to Oregon.
Oh, right. Okay, I see. Yeah, you certainly can do that. I mean, I know people who have taken on national job searches, and that's worked better for them as a strategy. You know, so you might just start looking at positions in Oregon rather than where you are in Massachusetts. But one thing I think to be aware of if you are going to do that while you're searching for the job is to maybe indicate in your cover letter or some way that you are still strongly interested, because I have heard of people on hiring committees who have said, why is this person applying for a job in, you know, here when they live like many, many miles away, and then they kind of discount that one a little bit. So I would say that if you are going to be in a situation where you're applying for jobs that aren't located where you are, to make sure to emphasize in your cover letter or in some way that there is a reason that you are actually applying where they are. Hopefully that is a help. I know that doesn't really help you with the housing situation, but it's just something that I learned at a recent panel I was presenting on at a conference.
Thank you, Stephanie. Do you think if I'm applying for jobs locally in the meantime, I should definitely tell them, look, I'm looking to move within the next year before I take a job, or even at the first interview?
I would keep that information close to you and not overshare it, because I think it will hurt your chances of finding a job. But also beware that if you do look for jobs and then leave them right away, you know, that is also something that people kind of frown upon. They want people who are coming and who are going to be committed to a job. They don't want to feel like they're hiring somebody who is just going to bounce because, you know, maybe there's a fear that the person won't be performing because they'll be focusing on finding that job elsewhere in Oregon or wherever it may be. Chris or Daniel, I know that both of you kind of have some more supervisory experience. I wondered if you wanted to speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, we've had adjunct applications, where people are applying and they live in Indiana, and so it definitely raises an eyebrow, especially for a part-time job. But if it was a full-time position, I mean, there are not a lot of full-time, community college positions. I mean, we would treat every application, no matter where they're coming from, the same, because we know that it's really hard to get a full-time position. But yeah, it is tricky if you're gonna. I agree that you don't want to take a job and then leave 6 months later, and then the place that you're applying is going to want a reference from your job. Your most recent job. They're going to want a reference from your manager, and so you just want to keep that in mind. But maybe you find a part-time job. An on-call part-time job where you are, and it's not such a big deal to leave it. But yeah, it's tricky. It's hard. It's really. I've done the move just from San Francisco to Oakland, and it was incredibly stressful. I can't even imagine moving from Massachusetts to Oregon. I mean, it would be really, really hard, I think. I mean, just the move itself.
Oregon is awesome, though, so I'm sure that when you do make it there, you're going to love it. I lived there for many years.
This is Allison, and I was just going to jump in to say, Jessica, I have experience. I work as a recruiter, or have, and I work with recruiters. And in terms of your resume and interviewing and moving and things like that, I think if you're planning on moving in a year, then that's something you could tell your employer as you're working there. You don't have to state it in an interview unless you absolutely feel like you need to. But, you know, a year is still a nice long time in a lot of jobs. Not a long time, but it's a good time. And then if you're planning something, let them know as you're doing it. But I think a lot of jobs, and from recruiting, if you go in and say, hey, I'm planning on moving soon, that's not necessarily a good investment for the company at that time. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you. That's really insightful. And we're probably going to move in a little less than a year, so I'm hearing that I probably should do like a temp agency or something like this instead, because I don't want to be mean to anyone who's hiring me, and I don't want to lie. That's part of it too, and it's just, there could be jobs. There's a lot of contract or temporary, or like you're saying, but yeah, I would just be open with them. But then if you're applying for jobs across the country, like I was saying, a lot of systems that are, you know, resume database search engine things are going to extract keywords from your resume. So if you don't put that on there right away, you get more of a chance of getting into the initial interview section where you can talk to someone and explain that you do want to move there, rather than them just rejecting you kind of from the beginning and saying, well, she doesn't even live in the area, let's not call her in for an interview. So just something to think about.
And this is Chris. I think it is great that you're looking out for the employer, but I think another side of it is there are lots of people in the field that are retiring right now, right? And I always thought the field would be more static. I mean, when I look at my organization, you know, in just 5 years, it is unrecognizable. And so I would also just be open to getting the experience and seeing, you know, you might end up getting into a job, finding like a real quality mentor that, you know, teaches you quite a bit, and you might end up advancing quickly, you know, even though you thought you'd just stay there for 6 months to a year. And so I wouldn't discount how even maybe your plans could change if you're in the right career.
Okay. I just want to cut in here. We only have a couple more minutes. I wanted to see if there was another question from a student. Thank you, Jessica, for bringing up your concerns. Okay, well, one question that I got was, are there any specific helpful job search sites or boards that you folks found useful?
I can tell you a little bit about where I looked when I was finding jobs. And it's, of course, going to vary based on where you live and what type of position you're looking for. Since I was primarily looking for jobs in academic libraries, I was looking on the HERC website, which is Higher Education Research Council. Does anybody know what the RC stands for? Anyway, HERC, and then they have a Northern California one as well, which is NorCal HERC. I looked on their website because a lot of the colleges will post their, colleges and universities will post their positions there. But then I also used a local site, which is called Baynet, where a lot of library and information professional positions are posted in the Bay Area. And so that one I found to be very useful for me right here in the Bay Area.
This is Dan. I mainly use a site called EdJoin, which is a a site, I think it's done by the state, that just handles all of K-12 school districts and community college job postings, and you know, I just do simple searches there. That's mainly this site I've used.
And this is Chris. I think I just use very mainstream meta search sites like Indeed. I think mainly because you can really look by, you know, location, and you know, I've found that, you know, most jobs that I've wanted to apply for, I've found on there.
Yeah, and I think I'll follow up by just adding that I have really actually been seeing a lot of posts via different mailing lists or listservs. So I'm a member of, like, as I've mentioned, CLA, but as well as a lot of other organizations, and a lot of positions have been posted there and are regularly posted on different listservs. I would definitely join and monitor those as you can. Also, social media now, there are specialty like Twitter accounts and Facebook accounts, like I Need a Library Job, that that's what they specialize in, is posting job postings. And there's a lot of those out there, and you will start to see the job postings a lot on social media as well. And so I think that's another good place to monitor.
Yeah, I just want to second that. I am on a lot of listservs, and I see multiple positions every day inside out. So this is Dan.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Our time is up here, but thank you so much, Stephanie Roach, Chris Brown, and Daniel Kiely, for coming and talking to us tonight. And thanks, everyone, for coming, and I hope you all have a good night.
Thank you.